Our next storyteller tonight is Keola Chan. He's a native healer, executive director of Kane Foundation for the Advancement of Native Hawaiian Males. Keola is a man who finds more substance from the oral traditions of our ancient ancestors, marked by his career as a professional Hawaiian musician and entertainer. Please join me in welcoming Keola to the microphone.
Before I get started, I'd just like to acknowledge Waiwai Collective, the owners and the staff. Mahalo for the work. Civil Beat, Alana Eagle, Reiko Ho for putting this together. My good friend who volunteered me to do this, Mahina Duart, she said I have free, passes to drink all the ava I want from now on, so mahalo to you. To my fellow storytellers tonight and guests, aloha. I'd like to dedicate this small little li'ili tonight to my children. May you remember to always aloha others and be of service to your community and lahui. I'd like to open up today with Olelo no Ea, a Hawaiian proverb that we have in our culture, and it goes, Ua ola loko iki aloha. Love gives life within, for love is imperative to one's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. In the Hawaiian mind, there is no word for addiction. It does not exist. The closest term that we have is a word called hei, H-E-I. Many of us may have grown up playing hei. It was a string that was tied together. We would cross it, tie it, entangle it, and we would make various shapes. Hei means to ensnare, to entangle, to trap, to bond. To heal this particular ma'i, this particular sickness, what was left to us by our ancestors was that the healing agent is love, aloha. Pure, pure aloha. In 1998, I found out that I was going to be a father. Panic set in. The anxiety of not knowing what to do, and my inabilities came to the forefront. I quickly found myself signing up for classes and found myself in a particular practice of lomi lomi, Hawaiian healing. I was led by teachers in these fields to other teachers and into other practices like la'au lapa'au and ho'oponopono to help round me out in this field of healing. Years later, in 2006, a couple of my kumu, my teachers, had met with me and had asked if I would consider sharing and teaching what they had shared with me with others. Too many of our elders are passing away, and it was imperative that we begin to share the work. I still do that till today. And I currently have a school called Kapa'alono Puha, where we continue the traditions of Mauliola, the Hawaiian healing practices. In 2010, the Hawaiian Electric Company had put on an event at the Bishop Museum called Grow Hawaii Festival. They offered music, food, games, native plants, and for the first time they had added Hawaiian lomi lomi. Under a tent of 20 by 30 tent, about 8 of us squeezed in there our mats, our tables, and offered 20-minute tune-ups sessions to all those who were attending this event from 9 o'clock to 4. There was no charge. We simply put out a calabash and people could donate what they wanted. As we worked throughout the day, I noticed in the corner of my eye a man who was sitting underneath a kukui nut tree on a stone. He sat there for 7 hours. I don't remember him moving at all. As 4 o'clock came around, it really wasn't closing time for us because that's when the vendors, that's when the musicians, and that's when the Bishop Museum workers rushed to try and get in some work. So around 5:30, as we were starting to clean up, this guy was still sitting there. And I had waved over to him, "Hey, come." As he was making his way over, I said, "Brah, jump on the table." Typical local guy, slippers, t-shirt, shorts. He looked a little dirty, didn't brush his hair, didn't shave. And he was like, "Nah, bro, I was just checking him out." And if you talk local, you know that means I like, but I shame. So I'm good at translating, so I was like, "Nah, bro, just get on the table." He leaned in and he told me, "Bro, no more money." I said, "I never asked for your money." I said, "Get down." Took off his slippers, jumped on the table. And this was no 20-minute lomi. An hour and a half later, it's an honor to do the work that I get to do. And when you work on people, you open up parts of their body. They heat up, yeah? They heat up when you work on them. And sometimes smells, because the pores open up, smells come out. And this particular individual, because of the work I had done previously in the Life Foundation, working in different areas of our community, I was familiar with certain drugs. And so this individual, I could smell the chemicals coming out. It was heavy. It actually left a smell on my hands for weeks. And you also push on parts of the body, and it's like Pandora's box. Sometimes you're gonna push certain areas where they hide. They hide their stories. They hide their pain, their kaumaha, their heaviness. And I noticed that he started to cry as I was working on him. But I was always taught, just keep going. Like, just let Netflix roll until they tell you stop. Hour and a half later, I finished. For 15 minutes, he stayed on the table after that, sleeping. Definitely was exhausted. As he got up, besides getting people to donate money, people brought over plates of food throughout the day. And so as he got up, I had offered him a plate. And bowing his head, he said, "Brah, I cannot pay you." And I said, "Brah, it's just aloha. That's all it is, brah, aloha. I get aloha for you." At that point, I didn't think about this interaction at that point. I packed up my stuff, threw it in my truck, and I was gone. Okay, commercial break. It's at this point, I want to share that I did not remember any part of this story, okay? What I'm sharing with you right now, I did not remember until 3 years later. So 2010, this happened. 2013 is when I started, this all came back to me. And I'll tell you how. You have to remember that our school, Kapa'olonapuha, we do a lot of community events. We go out and we really it's not just learn the work, you gotta do the work. Makahana ka'ike, as we say. In learning, you have to do. Okay, Oya. One night after playing music, 10 of us met up at Zippy's Wisteria. The old Wisteria, the old Wisteria. And sat at a large table and began to feast, as musicians do after our gigs. Towards the end of our feast, I called over the waitress, gave her my credit card, and several minutes later, she came back and she apologized and she said, "You know what, Mr. Chan, your bill has been taken care of." And I was like, what? Who in false cracked me, you know? So she said, he asked that he not, be acknowledged. And I said, no, so I said, someone in here? She said, yeah. So I'm looking around in the crowd and I'm like, I don't know anybody here. So I said, you need to let me know. I think there's a mistake. I think there's a mix-up of who I am, maybe. She said, okay, well, it's that guy over there on, that guy over there on the foretop, with the kids and the wahine. So I was like, okay. So I go over, and I introduce myself, aloha. Mahalo for the gesture, but I think there's a mix-up. You have me mixed up with somebody else. He looked at me and he said, I have waited for this moment. Look at me. Look at me, brah. You don't remember me? This is when the heat of the body starts rolling, right? The panic in the head of like, oh my gosh, how do I know this person? Was it a baby luau that I know him? Was I playing music? Was it a conference that I met him at? Panic. I remember the panic I felt because my brain was not working. So he leans over and he's like, Keola, let me tell you a story. Several years ago, I got deep into the pipe. Deep. I lost my business. My house was foreclosed. And my wife had it. She got to the point, she put a TRO on me and threw me out. Drugs was more important than my daughters. A year after being thrown out, living on the streets, doing what we do on the streets, Keola, with just a couple change in my pocket, I woke up that morning, Brian, I was done. You heard me. I was done. You know what that means, huh? I had lost everything to this pipe. I was burnt, and I had burned it all away. I was ready. I made my way across the Kalihi overpass, found my spot, placed my hands on the rail, looked over, and told myself, if the height of the bridge doesn't get me, guarantee those fast cars underneath were. And that's for real, brah. Out of nowhere, Keola, I heard a song being played, a song that reminded me of when I was young, when I was in my grandma's house, 1420 was on, and I would hear this man singing this song. I only know the song's name, Keola, and was this song, Hi'ilave. I don't know what the song talks about, but I found myself being carried into the Bishop Museum that day. I found a spot to hang out, and I was mesmerized by what I was watching. The work your group did, and the smiles people had, and the comfort you brought to them. Your group was awesome. I wanted that. But I needed that. But I didn't deserve it. And I couldn't muster myself up to stand off of that rock to ask for help. Keola, you went lomi me that day. You saw something in me that I couldn't even see in myself. You didn't label me. You didn't judge me. You sure didn't know me. And most of all, you knew I had no money to give you, but yet you gave me everything. Later that night, Keola, I found myself on a bus heading over to Pali. I walked a couple miles up from the bus stop, slept outside the doors of Hinamauka, and the next morning met with a counselor to begin my path And I've been clean ever since. Okay, commercial break. It's at this point in the story that the memory of this incident comes rushing back in my mind. Clear, totally clear. I remember everything at this point. Oh, yeah. His wife is crying at this point. I stand there looking at his daughters, who obviously had never heard this story. As the tears rolled down their face and their innocence washed away, it was the first time they had learned that their father was that close to killing them himself. You see, if you have played the game of hay, you know, and I know, it is much better to play with someone. Because there's a point when you get locked. And if you play with the right person, if you come across that right partner, they have the ability to look at the complexity of what is being presented to them and unravel and release the bonds to free you. We live in a time where we have forgotten some basic values, some principles, and some foundational instructions to love your fellow man as you would like to be loved. It is time for us to return to our humanity and love our brothers and sisters again. To work together to revive their spirit, to awaken their soul, and to love each other again. Each of us has this mana within us. Each of us has a responsibility to love. And when you do, no money can buy the type of experience I just shared with you tonight. Ua ola loko I ke aloha. Love gives life within. Mahalo.